Every time I drive by a business that has a closed sign on it, I always wonder what happened. Were they not profitable enough? Their margins not high enough? Were they burnt out and exhausted because their business started running their life? What do you do when you start your business for freedom and suddenly it's running your life? And now not only do you have a job where you're working 40 hours a week, but you have a job that owns you and you're working 24/7 essentially, right? You have a hard time shutting your brain off, disconnecting, being present for your family when you need to. And it makes me really sad when I see really good businesses and business owners who have really good hearts and desires and their business is closed. I can't tell you how many. I started my business 10 years ago. And there were a lot of other people that had businesses that they had started at the same time. And I've slowly watched them drop off over the years for different reasons. I know one who started a cafe and she was really good at baking and cooking and that was her joy. And then all of a sudden the business took over her life and it started to take her joy away. And so she shut the business down because it wasn't equating to fulfillment or joy. That's why you started what you started, was for joy, for peace, for freedom. But often we become so reactive to the circumstances around us and we lose sight of what's actually really important. And business owners are not taught that peace and rest and joy and fun are not only okay, but a super important part of having success. And so you're going to hear stories of different entrepreneurs that come on this show, and you're going to hear that they've pivoted throughout the years in recognizing like, oh, the way that I was working, that hustle mentality, that striving and chasing didn't actually feel like success to me, right? Somebody can look successful on paper, they can have all the money in the house and all the things, but quietly inside, they are running on fumes. They're not happy. They're unsatisfied with their life and how they feel. When my kids were toddlers and I had just become a stay-at-home mom, I had been a high achiever my entire life. I had just come off of a high-stress career where I was working a lot of hours. And all of a sudden I was home with these kids who constantly needed me. I didn't know how to get them to stop crying or fighting. And I constantly felt like this failure. And I remember just thinking like, God, I just want peace. Like if I could just feel peace in my life, in my body, if I could just feel joy, that would be amazing. And for me, as a Christian, I was like, I know that God promises this. In Galatians, God promises there's 7 fruits of the Spirit that we have access to as believers. And so I kept praying like, okay, God, like you say I can have peace, but I don't know how to access that peace. And it wasn't until I heard a teaching that really shifted the perspective for me. And it's as if somebody drives up a brand new car and they're like, I gifted you this brand new car, right? Here's the keys. Well, that car isn't going to run unless you put the keys in and start the engine and drive it, right? That's a choice you have to make. Otherwise, the car, the gift, just sits in the driveway and nothing's ever going to happen with it, right? And eventually it's going to die, and it's because the car needs to run. The same is true for the fruits of the Spirit. Peace, joy, faithfulness, meekness, self-control. I always forget what the other 2 are. So if you know them, put them in the comments below. We have access to this, but we have to make the choice. You first have to have the desire for something in your life, right? For me, that was peace. I had a desire for peace because I had so much anxiety and overwhelm. My nervous system was in constant fight or flight. I didn't know how to be peaceful. I knew it was available, but I didn't know how to access it. So I first had the desire. Then I had to decide, I had to commit. This is true for any goal you go after, right? You have to have a desire. If you want 10K months or 100K or $1 million, you have to have the desire. Then you have to decide, like, I am doing this, right? I'm committing to this no matter what. Then You have to devise a plan of action for how you're going to move toward that goal or whatever it is, right? For me, it was peace. And then the last step is delegate to God or surrender the steps, right? Like, yes, you can set the goal, but then you have to remove yourself from the attachment. You have to detach from the when and the how and trust that it's going to come. And so for me, when I heard that teaching, I was like, okay, yes, I want peace in my life. I have this desire. I am committing to having peace in my life. And that looks like analyzing what are the things that are causing stress and anxiety and are the opposite of that peace. What's stealing my peace and my joy away? One of those things was comparison, right? Comparing myself as a mom or a business owner to other people and where they were at in their business. Number 2 was having unrealistic expectations of myself and what I could get done on a daily basis as a stay-at-home mom with small kids who was running a business. I had to change my expectation for the season of life I was in and be okay with doing what I could. And third was I kept thinking if I just had a bigger house, I would be happier. If my kids just behaved, I would be more peaceful. If my husband just did X, Y, Z, I would be more joyful. I kept thinking it was these external circumstances. And the same is true for us as business owners. We think once I get to the $1 million, once I get to the 100K, once I get here, then I'm going to experience the peace and the joy and the happiness. It's not true. The opposite is true. A lot of times when you are chasing a goal, hoping that it's going to fulfill you in some sort of way, you find out it's not true. I just heard a podcast of Rory Vaden, actually from Brand Builders Group, was just talking about this, how he is a New York bestselling author. He's made the money. He's had the houses. He drove the Bentley. He had the car, right? He had all of the things that we think equate to peace and happiness and joy, all the money. And he realized that all of that success wasn't actually giving him the peace and the joy and the happiness that he thought it was. And you will hear this story after story of people who have achieved their goals and realize that that's not really what it's about. So you have to choose, right? And then you have to commit. And so for me, I made the decision and my plan of action was I am no longer going to compare myself. I'm going to allow myself to be okay with the season that I'm in. I used to have serious road rage and extreme frustration and stress around technology. Those were stealing my peace. And so I made the decision when I was in traffic or in the grocery store line, because I have a knack for picking the slowest grocery store line. I would be so frustrated because I was always in such a hurry for my to-do list. And so I chose in those moments, sitting in traffic or standing in the grocery store line, right? If it wasn't moving as quickly as I wanted, I just reminded myself, I'm going to take a breath. I'm going to let it go. And I'm going to trust that it's okay that I'm going to be here. I'm meant to be here right now. I'm just going to be present in the moment. And I'm going to focus on being peaceful in this moment because it's a choice. It's a commitment. It doesn't just come. You have to actually work for it. Every time I would go to start a webinar or, something, technology would go awry. And I would get so mad and so frustrated. I want to throw my computer against the wall. I want to throw my phone, right? And I would have to remind myself, like, wait a minute, I have to take a breath and I have to let it go. And I'm going to come back to it, right? I'm going to let it be for a minute and I'm going to come back to it. And I'm going to hope that it works. And if it doesn't work. And I'm just going to let it go. The crazy thing is when I did that, it seemed like I started having less technology issues because when you're so frustrated with something, that energy you're putting off, you're just getting that back. And so I made the choice, I committed that I wanted more peace in my life. And guess what? After months of making the choice to take a breath and just choose peace over frustration in traffic or in the grocery store line, I started feeling more peaceful in my body. And here's the reality. Me being mad at traffic was not making the traffic move any faster. Me being mad in the grocery store line was not moving the line any faster, right? In fact, it felt like it went slower because you're so frustrated and you're waiting. It's like watching a pot of water boil. You get to choose, but you have to decide and you have to commit to that in your life. So I want to ask you, what is one thing when you think about peace, joy, happiness, fun, self-control, faithfulness, trust, right? What's one thing that if you were to commit to it, and it's going to have a domino effect on every other area of your life, right? Because sometimes when you access one, you get another. When I started having more peace, I started having more joy. Originally, I was like, I just want to be joyful, right? But I couldn't access joy if I didn't have peace in my life because I was constantly stressed and anxious. That does not equate to joy. So what's the one thing that's going to change your life, your business, how you show up for the people around you? It is available to you, but just like that car that was gifted to you in the driveway, you have to put the keys in the engine. You have to make the choice. Nobody's going to come along and rescue you. No circumstances, no amount of money, no house, no car, no amount of success is going to give you that feeling in your body. You have to choose it. Okay? If that was helpful for you, if you are feeling frustrated, stuck, feeling anxious as a business owner, whether you're on your way to business or you've reached all the success and you're like, I'm going to put a link in the comments below for a complimentary breakthrough session. This is something I typically charge $500 a session for. But if you are listening to this and you comment below, we will send you that link for a complimentary breakthrough session. All right. If you enjoyed this, please like, comment, subscribe, share with other people, help us grow this channel and really help people reach their goals and have the success they want without having to sacrifice themselves, their relationships, their health, or anything else along the way. Until next time.